misbehave if she's here.
Can I have your attention? Can y'all hear me? Thank you. Thank you for coming today to Press Club. I'm Angela DeGravelle. I'm on the board of the Press Club here. It's an honor to introduce Dr. Mike Strain, who has served as the Louisiana Commissioner of Agriculture and Forestry since 2008. He was born and raised on a cattle farm in Covington, and Commissioner Strain is deeply rooted in Louisiana rural life, having built his career in veterinary medicine and livestock management. As Commissioner, Dr. Strain is responsible for promoting, protecting, and advancing our state's agriculture and forestry industries, overseeing vital resources such as soil and water, ensuring food safety, and supporting the agricultural economy. Today he shares how the government shutdown and other federal and trade factors are affecting our farms, our forests, our aquaculture, and of course our citizens. Please help me welcome Commissioner Strain today. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. How are we doing today? Good, good. Mr. Angster, how are we doing today? You good? Good. I'm looking good. It's hard now. It's hard. With me today is Ms. Jen Finley, head of my press corps, and Todd Parker, my confidential assistant. And of course, we have the LSU team over there, right? Now, Dr. Lee, make sure if I get the facts wrong, right, you got to tell me. But I have to tell you, they're LSU facts, right? So that's where I got them. So there are a lot of things going on, and so let's go ahead and get started, okay? Now, y'all know who that is, right? That is not me, right? Justin Wilson. Now, Justin Wilson's father was who? Harry D. Wilson, Agriculture Commissioner under Earl Long. Under Earl Long, Harry D. Wilson. And Justin Wilson's grandfather, Dr. Wilson, is best known for what? He introduced strawberries into the Florida parishes at the turn of the century. He came down, and it was right after we had been devastated by the boll weevil with cotton, had all these farmers with no crops. There was a railroad there. He said, you know what? I bet we can raise strawberries and send them north. Send them people up north, you know, and that means like North Louisiana and above, right? Would love to have strawberries. And that began a huge industry. There we go. So again, as we keep talking about how we're going to grow and what we're going to do with all of our different industries, look for that certified label. You hear me continue to talk about our seafood industry and about our local food production industry. You got to ask for it, you got to look for it. Certified Louisiana. We have now more than 800 companies that are part of the Certified Louisiana family. Fresh, local, and certified Louisiana. All right, let's talk. You knew we'd have to talk about commodity prices, right? And if y'all been watching the Dow up and down, up and down, up and down, but look, we tend to be trading up. This is as about 45 minutes ago with 46,975, so almost an all-time high. The Dow, the S&P, and the NASDAQ have probably broken records at least 10 times in the last 3 weeks. Moving up. Money is moving in, right? Moving in. Now, the issue is, what's going on with these commodities, right? You know, why, if you go to the grocery store, and if you look at the price of food, we've had significant food inflation. Why are the farmers not receiving their fair share of that money? If you look at 428 break even on a farm for corn, it's probably going to be around 465, 470. Corn, wheat, beans, cotton, all of these are being produced and have been produced over the last 3 years at or below cost. We're in a tremendous economic stress right now. I hear from my bankers and my farmers in that order on a daily basis. And we'll talk about why that is and what we're trying to do to get around it. Now, sugar's been holding. We like sugar is a lot sweeter at 42 cents, but at 33 cents, we're doing okay. You know, but again, we have a good sugar program. Now, rice, this is another issue here. This is far below production cost. And the question is, if we can't correct this very soon, we can't get some money into these systems, can the farmers get another loan? They've been borrowing money. They've been stacking money. Last year, those that were not able to pay the loans, they were able to take that loan and put it on the back of the long-term loans. Well, you can only do that once. And then there were USDA programs that would help on that particular portion to put it at the end at a relatively low interest price. Cattle, beef prices. What in the world's going on there? You saw Tyson reports this morning coming out that their beef prices in the last 6 months have risen 17%. Consumption is now starting to go down. So we are getting demand destruction because of the price of beef. We've hit all-time records, $3.79. And this is on 650-pound calves going into the feedlots. So when that calf at 650 pounds is bringing $2,400, $2,500, $2,600 going to the feedlots, not coming out, going to the feedlots, what else is happening? People are selling their heifers. They're selling everything. They're banking the money. And one of the reasons we have such high cattle prices, we have the lowest number of cattle in the United States in 50 years, okay? In 50 years. Then, of course, looking at lumber prices, this is tied directly to what? Interest rates. We'll come down 1/4 point. We've been told it is possible by June of next year, interest rates could go down an additional 3/4 to 1%. That's a big deal, right? Interest rates reflect housing and lumber. And oil's holding steady. It's always around 62, 63, 64. Sometimes bumping up to 65. And it's going to stay there. OPEC and OPEC Plus, you know, really decide that's where they want to keep it, and that is controlled again on supply, but demand is continuing to increase. All right. So overall, if you look at our commodity values, and these are good LSU Ag Center numbers, right? You see that, right? 12.9, so $13 billion in the economy. Now, a lot of this is dependent on price. We continue to produce more in volume, more bushels, but again, the price is down. Now, this will grow dramatically when those prices come up. So again, we are still a powerhouse. Sugar, our largest row crop, as we call it, and it's 535,000 acres and 34.9 tons. But here's the bottom line, 8,212 pounds per acre of raw sugar. Value, $1.6 billion. We look at some of the parishes, St. Mary Parish, Assumption Parish. This is the main economy of these parishes. For many parishes, agriculture or forestry is the main economy, the foundational economy of those parishes. And again, sugar is how many year crop when you put it in the ground? It's a 5-year crop. And that's important. It's important as we continue to talk to the European Union about timber. Timber is what? A 12-year crop. And then you finish harvesting at 18. So that they understand that, again, this is a crop in this state. And again, you know, that's Senator Allen and Senator Allen, right? Former senator, current senator, right? And if y'all know Robert, you know why he's smiling so well, huh? A lot of sugar and a solid price. And that is good. But when you look at sugar, don't just think of the cane in the fields. Think about this, right? The sugar mills, value-added processing. This is where we take the cane, we make brown sugar, raw sugar. Then from there we make what? You've probably got some on your table, I'm sure you do, white sugar. And most of our sugarcane farmers, they get paid for the tonnage in the field, they get paid with profitability from the raw sugar mill, and they get a percentage of the white sugar. So now it's integrated all the way up to the white sugar, and most of them are in co-ops. But again, long-term investments. Next is what? Chickens, right? You don't see a lot of chicken houses here. We are adamantly working on getting poultry houses in the Florida parishes. It's a tremendous opportunity. We need to divest out of the East Coast. We need to decrease the concentration of those chicken houses to the north. And we also need to bring them closer to where we can export poultry. So again, in the Florida parishes. But on any given day, we have more than 100 million chickens on the ground. That's a big deal. Poultry is big business. What else is poultry? It's value added what? Corn, beans, labor, right? And it's a huge business. Timber's next. $3.5 billion. 15 million acres of pine plantations. And that's, again, if you talk about the European Union, the deforestation rules, you see the recent discussion is that we're only going to hold the small landowners accountable under their EU laws, not the large landowners. So we're not destroying the rainforest. These are what? Plantations. It is, we plant them, we harvest at 12, we harvest at 18, we replant. And this is very carbon friendly. We have 3.6 million acres of hardwoods. Most of those are harvested once every 30 to 40 years. 80% of this is in the hands of 10,000 small landowners. Less than 10% is government owned. Think about the Costache, right? Think about the big, and of course, if you think about the forests that we hold in the Department of Agriculture, they're in central Louisiana. 10% is the large holdings. The largest ownership of foreign property in Louisiana is where? In timber, by the Canadians. Their ownings, what they hold now, rivals the Royal Martin companies at over 500,000 acres each, right? So again, if you want to stay in tune to what's going on, this is the, how you say, this is the advertisement section. You can get this every day. Just type in lfbf.org, go to the Voice, it'll be sent to your inbox every day. And this is put on by Louisiana Farm Bureau News and the Voice Louisiana Agriculture Radio Network. Thank you to Farm Bureau, thank you to Jim Angster and Don Molina, right? That's the Voice right there, and of course y'all all know Avery. But again, information is key. Information is key. And if you look at that, there's a lot of information. This is each and every day that we put the latest information. As we gather it during the day, it's sent in to get published. And you can also, again, look at how the markets closed yesterday. Very important. Okay? What's the sheep's favorite Christmas song? Feliz Navidad. I had to throw that in. Always got to have a corny joke in there. But again, in addition to that, there's a list of what's happening, the next meetings, and of course, different reports. These are daily reports. So you say, how do you get your information? You know, a lot of that research is there. And of course, don't forget the Farmers Market and the Louisiana Market Bulletin, been around since 1906. A lot of information at your fingertips. Okay. Have y'all got your turkey yet? Nope. You better go. You better go. Thanksgiving turkey prices, again, are up significantly. Turkey population, lowest level in 40 years, right? 40 years. So again, we have probably a 5% or so decrease in the overall numbers, but what's affecting it? High-path avian influenza. It's still here, it's not over. So avian influenza, the bird flu, right, affecting turkeys. And it is significant, you look at the number of turkeys. So again, overall, it is a significant problem, but you're going to see an increase in price sometimes in some areas up to 40% for the price of that turkey today, even though we only have a 5 to 6% decrease in the total availability. Okay? So it is significant. And again, if you look at the number of turkeys raised, it's progressively going down. Lower numbers, but again. And of course, looking at detections of a high-path avian influenza, which is now rearing its ugly head again. It's already affected 183 million birds, been in 1,819 flocks. Only a few states it hasn't ever been found in. And we are very, 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 very lucky and vigilant. Right? Biosecurity, biosecurity, biosecurity. Okay? How many of the flocks in the United States are vaccinated? It's an easy answer. None. None. Control is by isolation. Then, cattle outbreaks. Remember, high-path avian influenza started right around here, okay? Started here, and of course moved into cattle, and this is 1,082 herds, not individual. We count chickens individually. We only count herds of cattle. It's transmitted, it started from the ducks and geese to the cattle, and then it was transmitted cow to cow in dairy cattle. So someone said, well, why not beef cattle? It's real simple. It's transmitted in the milk. It can be transmitted for up to 30 days, really 3 weeks, technically, before you see any clinical signs. That's a problem. And it's spread through the milking process. So we have strict quarantines here, and we have not seen it here. And again, hopefully that I have on my desk a potential plan if we need to start vaccinating, again, birds, that may go into place. But again, working also vaccines for livestock, for cattle. But it's also many other species, right? That's the thing about the flu. It likes everybody and everything, right? And it's jumping into these different species. And in many cases, a lot of these animals that get it are carnivores. They will eat a sick duck, or they will contact a sick duck and get sick themselves. And so again, so you have to be careful here. Found it in a domestic cat south of New Orleans. We think it ate a sick duck. It is very, very contagious and lethal to cats. But again, in wild birds, it's everywhere. Now, right, Mr. Risponi? That virus is everywhere. So we tell everybody, if you're going duck hunting, when you come back to your farm or your chicken house, you leave your shoes in the shed, you change your clothes, you take a shower, you wash that truck, right? And you should wait a couple days before you ever go in that chicken house. And then again, wild birds, number of detections in the last 30 days. So it still is. So we are watching this very closely. But what happens, those birds start migrating south, right? And with it, they bring the virus, and they often will bring a new strain of that virus. And then in humans, 70 cases, 1 death. And the death was where? Louisiana, right? From the high-path avian influenza. So we're keeping a very close eye on that. Now, let's talk about seafood. You're up, Todd. He's going to play you a little video real quick. Produced by Miss Finley back there, right? Okay. So I don't know if do we have sound, Todd? Maybe? Maybe.
We're in a Venice Marina. I've been walking the same stalls since it opened up. Way back. I ain't scared. Back in the day, this was a booming place, and they had boats in every stall. And you just don't see them, or you can look around and see it's all gone.
You probably have to take the PowerPoint off. I'll give Todd a hard time while we're doing this. Do y'all have any questions so far where he's pulling up that shrimp video? Yes, ma'am. Oh, yes, ma'am, I can hear you.
So last week we heard a presentation on the Energy Master Plan, and I'm going to give you an example. Meta, who's coming in to do the data center, claims to be water positive, or they will be water positive by 2030, which is interesting because to me that means two things may happen. Either you have another water distribution plant, or you're reducing your irrigation and your water usage. So my question is, with all of the energy plans, is this going to affect any of the agriculture by 2030?
So we've been looking at it and looking at Meta because, again, when they start talking about their usage of 3 million gallons or so a day, one of the things Meta has discussed is as they use the water for cooling, that they want to inject it, but in such a way as that they can come back maybe later and harvest it back. That's potential. We're talking about Meta, right? Meta data center?
But can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
With water usage, especially in cooling the high industrial data center like we're using,
Right.
the purification process of that used water is actually fundamentally different and a higher regulatory need than just regular city sewage.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are going to be reusing the water from the cooling agents, right, or the meta system, and putting it back into the system, then you would have to have not just water distribution, but then a treatment plant as well.
Well, they would have to treat that water if they're going to reuse it, but some of the discussions I've heard from Meta itself is that they plan to inject that water after they've used it one time and then potentially reclaim it. Now, other than that, what we have also urged that if they're going to use groundwater, they're not talking about surface water, groundwater, then if they would clean that up and then allow that to be used agriculturally. Now, if that's the case, then there would be more water available to the farmers at the end of the day, right? But we're going to have to watch those. We're going to have to watch those aquifers.
And the land acquisitions as well from the farming community?
Well, have you seen where there are potentials for significant more land acquisitions in that area, right? But there are no regulations to prohibit that and they are paying a premium for that land. They are paying a premium. But we're very cognizant to make sure that our farmers and our communities have access to water and that we don't deplete that aquifer. I've been a proponent of reutilization of water, especially cooling water. Make sure it's cleaned up well, but then we can use it agriculturally versus pumping it, deep in the ground. But I do understand that there's a potential to reclaim that. Yes, ma'am.
What are the statistics of bankruptcies in Louisiana for farmers?
Well, if you look at overall, we don't know where we're going to be. Generally speaking, it's less than 3% is what we've seen statistically. You talk to the land banks. So far it's been low, very, very low. Now, we are concerned that if we don't get enough dollars in their hands this year, that could rise. But for your land banks, which carry the majority of the mortgages on the land, and of course that also you have the 90-10 USDA guarantees, it has been within normal limits so far. So we haven't reached that. We have not reached that point. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I would just like to clarify something you had said earlier. So between, the inflated prices for food and farmers not seeing this money and having to take out loans, can you clarify the disconnect there, how exactly that's occurring?
So what you're seeing is a higher cost in processing those products. And everything in the distribution chain, from once the farmer, that leaves the farmer, and then it goes into how it's processed and how it's transported and how it's sold. Labor costs are very high, right? So we have significant increase in labor cost. And the bottom line is that farmers are price takers, not price makers. And so that has been a significant issue, okay? All right, so.
How are the tariffs affecting? I've been hearing about the soybeans
Uh-huh.
and then timber.
Okay.
Particularly with the
We're gonna come to that, okay? All right, so let's hit on seafood and then we'll come back. Okay, Todd, play that. Yeah.
We in the business marina. I've been walking this thing stall since it opened up way back. I ain't gonna tell you how long, it's been a long time. Back in the day, this was a booming place, and they had boats in every stall. And you just don't see them. You can look around and see it's all gone. And we steady losing.
When you think about Louisiana, you think about the bayous, you think about the cypress trees and the hanging moss. What else do you see in your mind? You see a shrimp boat.
We don't go out there and catch a handful. We go out there and catch shrimp. Everybody gets 2,000, 3,000 pounds a night. It's just too much for me to handle. I have to sell it. We lose it. We lose it every year. Every year that goes by, 1, 2 more drops out. And, our average age is 58 years old. So we can't get money back in the industry we're not gonna have to be recruited. And it's a shame to see that we're gonna lose a way of life and culture that's been going on here in Louisiana for hundreds of years.
Many of those shrimpers have been shrimping for generations. Their hearts and their souls, all you gotta do is look at the boats. They're so proud. And they're so proud to be shrimpers. And they're so proud to be a part of our culture. And they are struggling mightily to stay in business. Okay, Todd, you can stop it there and go back to the PowerPoint. Louisiana shrimp. Go back to the PowerPoint. We can hit on the shrimp industry a little bit. And then, let's see, all right, so. All right. All right, roll through. Keep going. Come on. All right, that's good. Okay. So one of the things we've been charged with in the legislature now is start looking at shrimp. And we're finding that there's been a lot of, how you say, entities that have been selling imported shrimp and calling it Louisiana shrimp. And so the shrimping industry, tell you, is on its knees. We've also now been tasked with testing at the Ag Center, the Ag Chemistry Lab that we share with the Ag Center, for antibiotic and adulterant testing. And also, if you look at what's going on, dockside value of shrimp, 2024, $38 million. What's that number for crawfish? Over $250 million. What's going on? Season average opening price on the dock, $1, right? $1. What does it cost for a shrimper to go out there and get those shrimp? About $2.50 plus? How in the world did that happen? So again, we've been charged with looking at labeling. And of course, we have then, these are by acts of the legislature, to our Department of Weights and Measures. And again, looking at labels. Like if it says Thibodeau's crawfish, wild caught, it's a product of China. If it is a product of China, on the bag, it's got to be in 30-point font. So if they make it look like it's Louisiana, Royal Tiger, right? And then if there's no label on that, well, again, we have to go in there and make sure that they are doing that and correcting that so that when you buy your products and people buy the products, it's clear. So we're now testing for a number of different antibiotics. We found chloramphenicol from Thailand, ciprofloxacin from India, nitrofuran from India and Indonesia. We work with health and hospitals to remove these products. We average now 10 samples randomly pulled per week. And we are going to continue that. Okay? And then labeling, again, we've issued 18 stop orders. And the companies, we issue a stop order, they either got to relabel it, repackage it, or pick it up. And again, so that again, when you buy your product, that you know what you're getting. And now, promotion. We can't regulate our way back into seafood prosperity with shrimp. We got to promote it. So that when you go to a restaurant, right, you want what? Louisiana Gulf caught shrimp. Absolutely tastes better. And again, we've also notified all of our importers, there are about 60 of them, under the law, they're going to have to be providing us with the information on volumes, where it is, and all the different information so that we can do follow-ups. And again, this is by acts of the legislature. As we move forward, we're going to be asking for money for, again, for testing and promotion, requiring all establishments to keep 6 months of records, right? So that, you know, if we think they're selling imported product and calling it U.S. or Louisiana products, well, you just go down and look at their records and allow us to seize and destroy as well as just issuing a stop order, right? Because, again, that has to go over to health and hospitals. And then adding us to the oyster task force and then crabs and oysters to the seafood safety task force. So the industry is asking us, again, our fishermen, to step in and take a look. And all we want to do is to make sure that what you get is safe, right? And that all the labels are telling the truth. 94% of shrimp consumed in the U.S. is imported. Ecuador, India, Indonesia, and Vietnam. And again, it's a huge amount. And India, by far now, these big shrimp farms. Okay? And again, we see an increase year over year on the amount of imports that are coming in. Okay? Let's see. But again, there are tariff rates, but they are selling. By the time they get here, I want to show you this slide. All right. Imported product is now selling more than dockside. Imported product is selling for almost $4 a pound, but dockside is at $1. How in the world that's happening, right? Has to go back to marketing. We've got to market it and start getting that back into the system if we're going to save our shrimp industry. When I was young and when I first came to the legislature, we had these big shrimp boils. We don't do that anymore. We have crawfish boils. We used to have crab boils. When's the last time you went to a big crab boil? Right? We've got to reestablish that and make it back into our culture. And again, if you look at the price, it's running around $4 a pound with a negative trade balance. We don't want that just to be a memory in a photograph, right? We've got to progressively and push that forward. Okay, so let's talk about what's going on. If you want to know what's happening tomorrow, you're going to have to read the news in the morning, right? So a lot of things happening each and every day. But again, this is the latest fact sheets, rebalancing trade with China. And of course, again, when you start looking at it, it was all with the rare earth and everything else. But again, China's going to suspend the retaliatory tariffs on chicken, wheat, corn, all those agricultural products, immediately buy 12 million metric tons of soybeans. And then in the next several years to buy 25 million metric tons of soybeans each year. What's our total U.S. exports of soybeans? It's about 52 to 54 million metric tons. So China has agreed immediately to buy 25% of our exports, and then each year 50% of our exports. Who's the largest importer of soybeans in the world, bar none? China. China. We're the largest, one of the largest exporters. China's the largest importer, okay? But then again, if you look at all these tariffs, and then China has agreed to purchase sorghum, hardwood, and softwoods. Again, a lot of, when you buy furniture and it comes in from China, a lot of times that lumber came from here. We ship it over there. They further process that, okay? So all of this is in the works. And again, we have to move products. What is the issue with a lot of our grains and our rice? What's the issue right now? It's sitting somewhere, right? We've got to move it offshore, and if we can sell it, then we can raise those prices. So again, we're going to be lowering the tariffs on Chinese imports. They're going to knock the tariff that was on there, called the fentanyl tariff, in half. But then again, we're looking at a lot of different exclusions, and this is what's in the works right now. We're also going to suspend the additional fees on Chinese vessels. That's a big deal. How many American flag cargo vessels are there on the seas of the world? Only about 100. The majority of vessels are either operated by or built by China. So even if you're sending a cargo to Europe, it's probably going to be on a Chinese-built or Chinese-operated vessel. And if there's a fee on that, a significant port fee, right, then that cuts into our profits on our side as well. It makes it more difficult. So that is being suspended. Okay? And then we're signing treaties with Malaysia, Japan, Korea, and we're continuing to work to sign treaties across the world. Secretary Brooke Rollins, she was here about 2 weeks ago. We had a very good meeting, and again, talking about the different plans to help our farmers as well as opening new markets. And again, Emergency Commodity Assistance Payment Program, that's one, and that's $10 billion there. We think another 12, probably 10 to 20, but around 12 is probably be coming as soon as we can get the government back open, okay, to help our farmers manage their debt and additional assistance as well. So dollars coming from the USDA, we've done this before, and again, we did it in 2015. So additional $12 billion in aid, looking at the cost of the tariffs. So that's the way it's calculated. So again, if you look at across the United States, soybeans, and this is an estimate, okay? This is the best estimate that we have from different strategy groups. In soybeans, about $65 an acre, corn, about 40, wheat about 36. Now rice, we haven't seen any real numbers for rice yet, but one of the things we've done is that in the Farm Bill portion that was passed, we have raised the limit under the PLC, price loss coverage. You can buy two types of crop insurance. PLC, price loss coverage, right? Then acre revenue, average acre revenue. Most farmers buy PLC, price loss coverage. And now for rice, we have set the floor, the base of the PLC, moving forward at $16 a hundredweight. So again, if you look at the different payments under the price loss coverage, and again, anywhere from 95 cents for wheat to rice. Now, farmers have to buy that crop insurance. Farmers buy that crop insurance, but it is a very important tool that we have. One of the things that you keep talking about, why our commodity prices are weak, another reason is the exchange, the rates of exchange, okay? So if you look at the euro, you get here, it's around $1.35 to $1.40, and it has continued to decline over time. Pound sterling, again, around $1.60, now down today, it's probably about $1.36 today. Look at the Japanese yen, the Japanese money. If you look from here and all the way down to here, and then the Chinese money. We export in dollars. We import in foreign currency. That's why we have that imbalance of trade. So if you go back about 4 years, you go back the 50 years before that, we always had a positive balance of agricultural trade. Now we have a negative balance. And it's not necessarily a tonnage issue, it's a value and price issue. So again, you've seen these WASDA reports, and I'll just give you this one real quick. If you look at the total amount of grains produced, 2,930,000 million metric tons, okay? Consumed, 2,933. For most of those commodities, you will see that output and consumption are either close or we have more consumption than output. If you look at rice, again, 541, consumption 542. Normal economics. Dr. Lee, you can answer this. If you have higher demand than supply, what does it do to price? Should drive it up. When this stabilizes, when we get our currency stabilized, you're going to see a significant increase. Because this is not just this report that just came out. This is year over year over year, and the ending stocks continue to go down. They continue to go down, and that is a significant issue. Because what happens if we have a hiccup, worldwide drought, or a disease, right? Then what's going to happen? Somebody's going to be left out. Many countries are contacting us, say, look, we want you to come visit. We want to sign a trade deal. Why? It's less supply, greater demand, and we do business with who? Our friends, and the ones we have contracts with, right? And so again, total grains, and we'll jump across this, but cotton, and et cetera, okay? All right, global oil, energy. It's going to increase. Global energy demand. When it first came out, we're talking about those meta centers, right? Everything's going to be more efficient. Now what do those meta centers and all do? What do they eat? Energy. Lots of energy. And if you look at, as we progress worldwide as foreign economies, India, which is going to be the new kid on the block, soon to surpass China in total population and in financial strength, right? What's the average size of a farm in India? 2.7 hectares. What happens when they start getting small tractors? You start mechanizing, right? Look at Brazil and others. That energy is going to increase. And that is 1.5 million barrels per day per year. On and on. So additional energy needs. Okay? So a big deal, changes in the Federal Reserve policy. That is a good thing. The Federal Reserve, normally, they said you had to have inflation at 2%, and this predates the Great Depression. Now they say, that's not working out so well. Maybe we need to look at regional and national economics, job growth, state of the economy, looking forward in short term as well as long term, for better ways to manage our money. We've got to get these interest rates down. We held interest rates high, but inflation kept going, right? So we have to look at a different paradigm. What else influences all of that? Speed of information. Speed of information, the amount of data, speed of information continues. So again, if you look at the three-point plan coming forward, more trade missions. I've been on a number of trade missions. We're fixing to go back to the United Kingdom. We're going to England. This will be focused on timber and Drax. And one of the things so that we can further work to convince the EU that we have very good timber policies. And of course, we continue to work around the world, but trade missions around the world, revitalize our export finance opportunities. I must have jumped one. Okay? And then getting dollars into the hands of the farmers. So, what time is it? Okay. So, we can move on from here. Specific questions on trade, tariffs. If you have a question, I can take those now before we run out of
I
time.
was just wondering about the impact because of the soybeans and the timber. And you kind of addressed
Okay.
it a little
So,
bit.
well, the impact, as you saw, that soybeans got down below $10. Okay? Bear in mind, break even is probably around $11.30, maybe $11.40. So the amount of the value of the soybeans, the value of the corn, the value of the wheat, the value of most commodities, the value of rice, right, went below what it cost of production. So just overall, you can't just set the tariffs by themselves. You got to look at overall the entire world economy, what's happening. And so, as in 2015, when we utilized money from the CCC, Commodity Credit Corporation, so they take tariff money that's collected elsewhere, the tariff money goes to the CCC, from the CCC to help the farmers based on the estimated losses per acre. And that's what those numbers represent, right? So to help them to cash flow as we move into next year and we open those markets back up and those commodity prices rise. So all of those factors together, it has been a very, very difficult year for agriculture in Louisiana and across the United States. Sugar's been doing okay, and crawfish will do okay and doing well. But again, if we look at our shrimpers, we look at most of our commodities, they have been struggling. And we are working now to open those markets across the world. I've been to England twice, right? And so first time as a guest of the British government, second time with dollars from the Foreign Ag Service. But we're there to move products. We've been to Havana, and we're going to be moving to other parts of the world. But all the ag commissioners together, we are breaking the world up, and we're doing trade missions to expand our footprint into those other countries. In Japan, they've agreed to buy our products, including rice, because their rice prices got so high, you had an overturn of the government. Remember, just not very long ago, but opening up to beef and to rice. In the United Kingdom, we're opening that up to beef. We hope to move more timber products there. The United Kingdom now imports 42% of their food. 42%. And guess what? We want to export it to them. But also looking at Malaysia and all these other countries and tapping into India. So, yes, China's a big player. One of the mistakes that we made is that we put too much effort into one big country. But also think about Mexico. Mexico is generally our largest agricultural trading partner. Mexico and Canada, and they kind of move back and forth. China either is number one when they're playing, or they way down low below number 3 when they're not. But right now it's Mexico, Canada, and then when China kicks back in, it'll be China. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, first of all. And 2 questions. In your presentation, you listed all of the Louisiana commodities.
Yes, ma'am.
And one that was missing was agricultural hemp for building materials.
Yes, ma'am.
That kind of thing. What is the percentage of agricultural hemp being grown here? And
It is.
And then
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
The second question is, unfortunately, Act 752 by Governor redefined industrial hemp solely for consumable hemp. do you have any plans to lessen the tight restrictions on farmers being able to grow this miracle crop that is growing in, grows everywhere, internationally and nationally, except here in Louisiana? Will you push for lessening the restrictions in place by the governor to allow more industrial hemp to be grown?
So the provisions for the growth of industrial hemp are governed by the USDA. And the USDA has preemption on those rules, right? And what it says is that it's got to have less than 0.3% THC 30 days prior to harvest in order to be harvested. Now, once it's harvested, the utilization of that falls under the FDA. But also, that's where you've seen the state regulatory actions. So the hemp industry is small here in Louisiana. There are a number of issues there. One, it's difficult to grow here. It's just very difficult because we have a very humid environment. Now, if you saw the information coming out today in the Senate, did you read the Senate compromise legislation where it will prohibit the uses of Delta-8 and other things in hemp, and that is by the FDA, and they have preemption there, okay? So when you start looking at that, the medical marijuana, that is still allowable, and again, that is through the USDA, but really the FDA, and if you look at what's called the Cole, the Cole, not amendment, but the Cole policy that was set. So we allow that, and that is stable here. But the use of industrial hemp, and especially that which is beyond the 0.3, violates the precepts of the USDA. But then taking that and processing it now into other products, when you're looking at Delta-8 or Delta-9, that is prohibited by state law and by federal law if this passes.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Has the recent crackdown on undocumented labor affected the cost and availability of labor for Louisiana? Affected the cost of labor for Louisiana farmers? And related question, has the tweaks that the federal government has announced for the visa program for agricultural workers, what are kind of your hopes for that in terms of?
Okay, so the vast majority of foreign workers in Louisiana are legal H-2A and H-2B. We do not have a significant number of illegal workers that you have in other parts of the United States. Now, that being said, if you start looking at the H-2A and H-2B program, that still needs to be streamlined. It's extremely difficult. The prevailing wages are increasing on the H-2A and H-2B, and so and what's happening with the prevailing wages, I have petitioned and spoken directly to Secretary Rollins by letter that we need to make sure that it is uniform, that you don't have two different prevailing wages 30 miles apart. And the prevailing wages in Louisiana, for instance, can be anywhere from like $15 to $18 or $19, and these are unskilled agricultural workers, H-2A workers. And so that is always a continual problem. If you look at our industries, our seafood industry, our crawfish industry, and the peeling plants, also working on the farms, our landscape industry, and also like our horse farms, that is a significant issue. Also in the sugarcane industry, the vast majority of drivers are H-2B workers, H-2B, that are here, and they are legal guest workers. But it is a difficult system. The system to make sure you get your workers, there's always a degree of uncertainty there. So that needs to be streamlined. I was in favor of the Goodlatte, the H-2C bill that would allow for a 5-year returning guest worker. A lot of these returning guest workers come back year after year after year, and you want them to come back year after year after year because they're trained, they want to come, they stay, they do their job, and they go home. Let's set up a system where they can come and go for 5 years to decrease that uncertainty. Uncertainty results in less profitability. That's the bottom line, right? And these workers are doing jobs that no American will do because you have to advertise those jobs. And, they're hard jobs, and again, we need those jobs done. So we're always working to try to make that system a little bit better for our legal guest workers. If an American goes overseas and works, guess what? They're a guest worker. So it's a two-way kind of street. Okay? And overall, if you take the number of legal guest workers, it's less than one person per zip code in the United States. It's not a high number, but for those industries you need it, you got to have it. We have,
It was a kind of interesting. I was half asleep when I was thinking about it. Somebody asked the question, why is, with all the sugar cane, why do we have any candy manufacturers in Louisiana that, would add value to that?
we do. Elmer's is here, and Elmer's Candy is here, and we'd like to have more manufacturers, okay? Because we do have a tremendous. But what else we're having, what you're seeing a resurgence is in the distilleries. So we have a lot of rum manufacturers, right? We have some new whiskey manufacturers using those sugars. But rum is really moving up, so are the different whiskeys and other products, the value added to our sugar, because we have plenty of sugar.
Thank you. That's all we have time for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.